How many tractates are there in the Mishnah? One might be tempted to answer 60. A lot of people heard there are 60 tractates in Mishnah. But the answer is not so clear, actually. We'll get back to the number 60 in a moment. But if you actually count our Mishnayot, you will get the number 63, surprisingly. I don't think many people heard that number as the number of Mishnayot, the number of different tractates of Mishnah. Now, only some of them have Babylonian Talmud, and only some of them have Jerusalem Talmud, what's called Yerushalmi. Both Talmuds intersect, they overlap in terms of the majority of tractates which have Talmud. There are certain tractates that don't have any Talmud at all. But there are some tractates that have only Yerushalmi or only Bavli. And at any rate, that number is not so significant. It just happened to be that we have only partial Talmud, basically for mostly the tractates that apply to us. So Yerushalmi covers in particular the tractates that have to do with the land of Israel, all the laws of Shemitah, taking off tithes, Maiserot, Trumot, many other tractates that have to do with the land of Israel. The Bavli only has the tractate Brachot in the Seder Zraim covered. On the other hand, the Bavli does talk about temple service. As even being in Galut, people learn these laws, and that's why the cycle of Daf Yomi, after another year or so, will get to that the Seder Kodshim, whereas Yerushalmi does not have that, or at least it didn't survive. There are, by the way, traditions that there used to be Yerushalmi to those tractates, but we don't have it. And the Seder Taharot, laws of ritual purity, mostly doesn't have neither Bavli nor Yerushalmi except Tractate Nida. Those laws, of course, apply to us today, and that's why there is full Tractate Nida in Bavli and partial Tractate Nida in Yerushalmi. But my question is about the tractates of Mishnah. So how many are there? So if you count, it turns out to be there are 63. So let's get back to the number 60. Where did this tradition come from? Number one, the Talmud tells us that the three Bavas, right now, by the way, cycle of Daf Yomi is learning the Bavas. What's called Baba means a gate. So there are three Babas, Baba Kama, Baba Mitzi, and Baba Batra. These three tractates, right now the Daf Yomi cycle is in Baba Kama. These three tractates can be considered all one. It's called Nizikin. Just the first part discusses the laws of damage that people may cause each other and how to pay for it. The second is more on the laws of borrowing and on returning somebody's lost item and things like that. And the third is various acts of acquisition, inheritance, neighbors, laws of neighbors, laws of writing correct documents, shtarot. So that's the three babas, the three gates to one big seder, one big tractate of Nizikin. So now if you make all of those three into one, the number will be 61, right? We didn't get back down to 60 still. Even if you count all three Bavas as one, so instead of 3 you have 1, so that's 2 less. So instead of 63 tractates, you now have 61 tractates. So where does the number 60 come from? I've seen 4 different possibilities brought down. One is that 60 tractates does not include Pirkei Avot. Since this is a separate tractate which talks about ethics of fathers, it's an ethical tractate. It's not really in the normal Seder of the Mishnah. It's counted by itself in a certain sense. Another possibility is Tractate Eduyot is not counted. Why would that be? Because Eduyot, to a large extent, is repetitive, meaning whatever is in Eduyot, it means witnessing. The tractate where different rabbis witnessed, or different people came and witnessed, brought testimony. Testimonies would be probably a better translation. They testified about various types of laws on all kinds of topics. There's no one topic in Eduyot. So almost all of the Mishnayot there have parallels in other tractates. And therefore it shouldn't be counted as a separate tractate. There's a third possibility that Maaser Sheni, the tithes, should be considered as part of regular Maaser. And yet there is a fourth possibility. This is the one I like the most. It's brought down that Tractate Makot used to be part of Sanhedrin. Today it's 2 different tractates, but it used to be part of one big tractate. When the cycle of Daf Yomi gets to it, you'll probably notice something interesting about it. It's as if Makot is continuation of Sanhedrin. So it's very possible that this was all one tractate, and that's how the number 60 was arrived to. But at the end of this short video, I want to mention a very interesting approach that the Vilna Gaon has to the number of tractates and the Kabbalistic hint to it. And that is, the Vilna Gaon claims that there are actually not 63 and certainly not 60 or 61 tractates, there are 65 tractates. Where would that number come from? Well, 65 actually is if you split Tractate Kelim into three. Kelim is the first tractate in Seder Taharot, in the last Seder. And that tractate deals with ritual purity of various vessels, right? Which vessels can become unclean ritually. And there are 30 chapters there, just like there are 30 chapters in the three Babas. Each Baba, Baba Kam, Baba Mitzvah, Baba Batra of Nizikin, is 10 chapters each. So there used to be apparently the same division used to apply to Kelim. Since it's a huge tractate, it used to be divided into three, 10 each. So there's Baba Kama, Baba Mitzvah, Baba Batra, and Kelim. In fact, in Tosefta of Kelim, you could see that clearly. It's printed as three Babas. So if you divide now the one huge tractate of Kelim into three, so you add extra 2 tractates. So now instead of 63, there are 65 tractates of Mishnah. Why 65? So the Gra claims that it's Keneged, the divine name that's pronounced. Aleph Dalet Nun Yud has Gematria 65. On the other hand, the main divine name, Yud Kei Bevav Kei, has Gematria 26, but it's not pronounced. So the Talmud tells us that the book of Bamidbar is actually divided into 3. That's why what we call Chumash, the 5 books of Moshe, actually in a sense it's the 7 books. If you divide Bamidbar into 3. There are certain kind of parentheses, inverted nuns in a certain place that separate a short passage of Bamidbar from what's before and what's after. So if you divide the book of Bamidbar into 3, and there are a lot of Kabbalistic allusions to this, now we have, instead of 24 books of Tanakh, 26 books of Tanakh. So now the symmetry is perfect. There are 26 books of Tanakh, and that's connected to the Gematria of Yud Kei Bevav Kei, the main divine name, as it's written, but it's not pronounced. On the other hand, the main name that's pronounced, Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, is 65, and that's the number of oral law tractates, 65 tractates. And the Gra goes on to say that actually 60 of those 65 are biblical. So really the Mishnah does have 60. It's just that the 5 tractates have to do with rabbinical laws, and they were added later. And that's why really 65 is 60 plus 5. There are 60 tractates of Mishnah originally, plus 5 dealing with rabbinical laws. Laws like Megillah, for instance, Yadayim, the washing hands before bread, and things like that. So on this I'm going to end, and if you like this video, please press like, and please subscribe to our channel.